Hi, I want to discuss the BC8B Autonomic Nervous System Test. This is a test of the autonomic nervous system that allows a platform for the determination and detection of risk of cardiovascular and metabolic disease, specifically diabetes and coronary artery disease. The values for these tests or markers are derived from different modalities and processed utilizing software-facilitated algorithms to generate a score for each assessment. Now, the nervous system is composed of two parts. One is the central nervous system, which is the brain and spinal cord, and the other part is the peripheral nervous system, where information is processed and then sent out through nerves. Now, the peripheral nervous system can be divided in two parts. One is the somatic, which is responsible for voluntary action, and the autonomic nervous system, which involves unconscious functions and processes that are not under voluntary control, such as the function of organs and glands. This is what this test measures. Now, the autonomic nervous system is also composed of sympathetic or parasympathetic systems. The parasympathetic system is associated with rest and digest responses. It controls the body's response while at rest, and the vagus nerve has a great deal to do most of the parasympathetics. The sympathetic nervous system, on the other hand, is our fight or flight responses, with the body reaction not needed to respond quickly to an emergency. The sympathetic system will do this better with better breathing and stronger heartbeat. It's the body's response during preserved stress. The neurotransmitter norepinephrine modifies target organs to make them more conducive to activity and body movement. Now, this is an example of what the parasympathetic and sympathetic systems do and their effects on various organs in the body. It should be kept in mind that the body is back and forth, constantly responding and resting. Now, the areas of assessment today will include various things, but today we'll start with the small fiber neuropathy. The pseudomotor risk or small fiber risk is a measure of the nerve fibers causing sweating and responsible for pain. The software within this device analyzes sweat response after exposure to electrical stimulation, which the device provides. It's controlled by a division of the sympathetic nervous system and postsynaptic nerve fibers, which release acetylcholine. It's acetylcholine that increases microvascular flow to the skin and provokes sweat output. Now, the pseudomotor risk, and as you can see on the enclosed report, is based on a measurement of two things. One is nitrous oxide peak, and the other is sweat peak gland density nerve. The nitrous oxide peak is a marker to electrical's response to the production of nitrous oxide vasodilation. I should add that this test is a small stimulation. A decreased nitric oxide response suggests microcirculation issues. A low number suggests that you have poor microvascular evacuation and increased risk of distal neuropathy. The peak gland, sweat gland nerve density also reflects C fiber neuropathy. Low numbers are used as an early detection of peripheral distal neuropathy. You'll see here on the right that we have the left foot nitrous peak, and as well as the left foot sweat peak, as well as the right, and the software creates a score of the small fiber risk chart here on the right. Now this is what a sweat gland looks like in the skin, and this is what a nerve cell, except that most of the nerves that we're testing with this do not have a myelin sheath. Now, small fiber risk is derived from the markers and process utilizing software. It occurs when there is damage to the peripheral nerves, predominantly the entire small myelated fibers. The small ones are unmyelated, what we call C fibers. The sensory function of these fibers include thermal perception and nociception, which is pain, and it can manifest itself as muscle weakness, burning, or tingling. If you do have a small fiber risk, there may be additional testing, which includes skin biopsy, nerve conduction study, blood testing, cardiovascular workup to include an EKG and an echocardiogram. Another area of assessment is the autonomic neuropathy and cardiac autonomic neuropathy. This is based on the heart rate variability as your heart beats. The software analyzes the change in heart rate of both the heart rate and beat-to-beat blood pressure between a resting state and the Valsalva maneuver, deep breathing, and active standing. The Valsalva maneuver is when is performed with a moderately forceful attempted exhalation against a closed airway. The variations in the RR intervals heart rate is what we call the heart variability. It's a balancing of the sympathetic and parasympathetic inputs to the heart. It's akin to using a gas for the sympathetic and a brake pedal for the parasympathetic. Now, heart rate variability is modulated by ventilation, baryoflexes or pressure flexes, genetics, hormonal, environmental factors. When the heart rate variability is high, that means the heartbeats have intervals of varying lengths and there's a dominance of the parasympathetic system. That means the body recovers well. When the heart rate variability is low, there is a dominance of the sympathetic, means that the body does not handle stressors very well, and there's a certain amount of stiffness with it. Now, heart rate variability can also be measured in terms of the frequency, which is how often these intervals take place over a specific period of time. A high frequency component reflects primary parasympathetic modulations. A low frequency is sympathetic, and you'll notice on the report on the right where these are noted. Now, there's also a ratio that takes place between that the device calculates. It's between low frequency and high frequency. A low frequency, an LF high frequency ratio less than 5 suspects that there is more parasympathetic dominance, which is good, but it also can be found in fatigue or depression. A high ratio means there's a lot of sympathetic predominance and can be found with mental stress, anxiety, and adrenal burnout. Now, the various maneuvers and the device will bring about additional modalities, which the software then processes to give a score of the autonomic dysfunction as well as the cardiac autonomic dysfunction. Now, autonomic neuropathy refers to the damage to the autonomic nerves that innervate the heart, blood vessels, resulting in abnormalities in heart control, vascular dynamics, and the body's ability to adjust the blood pressure. Further workup may include a cardiology consult, checking the blood sugars, checking for insulin resistance, as well as checking for peripheral vascular disease. Now, cardiac autonomic neuropathy refers to dysfunction of the nerves that control the regulation, mainly affecting the heart. This is when 2 out of the 3 phases are not functioning very well, and that would include the Valsalva, deep breathing, and active standing. Now, autonomic neuropathy may require further workup to include blood sugars, EKG, an echocardiogram, cardiac ultrasound, and a Holter monitor. The next area of assessment is the insulin resistance. Now, this device actually analyzes the waveforms that come from the pulse oximeter that was used, and the algorithm and models from the analysis have been compared to other subjects and other devices and shows a high specificity and sensitivity to detect insulin resistance. You'll notice on here, it's the PTG total power, gives us the number. If it's in the orange, that means it's high, yellow is borderline, and green is normal. Insulin resistance is the diminished ability of cells to respond to the action of insulin and transporting glucose from the bloodstream into the muscle or other tissues. This type of resistance usually develops with obesity and can herald the onset of type 2 diabetes. Insulin resistance can occur as part of a cluster of cardiovascular metabolic abnormalities, commonly referred to as insulin resistance syndrome or the metabolic syndrome. Additional testing may include an HbA1c, blood glucose testing. High numbers may indicate the need for weight optimization and diet modification. Now, another area of dysfunction which is important is the endothelial dysfunction. This again is accomplished with the use of the pulse oximetry and analysis of the waveforms that come with it. The software analyzes the pulse wave detected from the pulse oximeter. It uses software to assess the compliance of the blood vessels and the possibilities of arterial stiffness or dysfunctional blood flow. It's a non-invasive test for arterial elasticity. It will be used to detect the blood volume changes in the microvascular tissue bed. This is a picture of an endothelium. It's the inside of the blood vessel. That's mainly what we're testing. This is where it is with the report. It takes the numbers, the modalities under the markers on the small artery, and develops a score in which we can get some idea of the endothelial impairment. This may be of consequence for the future in that it may warrant further workup with cardiovascular workup, and it also may affect a person's energy level or fatigue. Endothelial dysfunction is a marker of the net effects of damage from risk factors on the arterial wall. It indicates the presence of reduced vasodilating response to stimuli. Once the endothelial dysfunction is identified, we can expect to see less nitrous oxide production, stiffer the arteries, faster the pulse wave travels, and the worse the score, which means you may be at a higher risk of cardiovascular events such as hypertension, obesity, diabetes, and then organ damage. Now, another area of assessment is the central aortic pressure. This is the measurement of the pressure as it leaves the heart or the aorta. It may be a marker for elevated blood pressure in the future. Additional testing may include blood glucose testing. The last part of area of assessment would be lower artery pressure. This is where we take blood pressure measurements of the lower limbs to see if there's any peripheral vascular disease or hardening the arteries of the lower vessels. Further workup may include an A1C as well as a blood sugar test. This device also measures body fat mass index to give an idea what the body composition is and possibly the need to lose weight. It also measures from other markers the exercise recovery index and the ability to tolerate exercise. Thank you.